Hello. Ooh, there it is. Give it a couple minutes. Take your time. Get seated. You don't have to be so quiet already. Thank you. Does everyone have their treats and snacks? Okay, we're good. All good? Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I feel like it's been so long since I've been up here. I miss the power. It's so nice. I'm kidding. I'm actually surprised to see so many of you here. I know that you're all birders, so I thought for sure you'd be watching the Blue Jays tonight. But here we are. Welcome to the annual general meeting. My name is Rachel Jones. I am the president for about 30 more minutes of this club. And we're going to go through the usual stuff first before we get into the actual AGM business of the night. So first we'll go through the usual, our announcements, the presentations, upcoming events and things like that. Then we'll move into our official business where we'll ask the members to help us with some voting. And then we have quite a few presentations tonight. So I'll try to make this as short, as sweet as possible so we can listen to all the great things that our volunteers and staff have been up to over the past year, which is a lot, which is great. So first I will, just a few announcements. Again, refreshments. I want to thank Dina and Catherine, who are both not here. We have Anne tonight with the refreshments, so big thanks to Anne for bringing those. And also on the social committee to Ellen Roy, who I'm not sure is here, but we have Anne. So thank you to Anne for the refreshments that you're all enjoying. We really appreciate that. And I also have a thank you from Alice Dabrowski, who was the host of the monthly meeting last month. I'll get to that in a moment. And just to kind of walk through the agenda, once again, upcoming events, AGM presentations. So you know we're headed with this. So this is just a thank you that Alice wanted to pass along to all of you. How many of you attended the talk on flower flies last month? A lot of you? That's great. So I was not there, but I know that she was talking to a few of you about following up after. So she wanted me to share this with you. If there's, if you want to follow up, send her an email or have her contact information. It's here for you now. If this is moving too fast and you want to know later, just come find one of us and we'll share that information with you as well. So yeah, it was really nice to get that feedback from her and she really enjoyed it. So it's great. And tonight's presentation, so after the AGM wraps up, you're going to hear from quite a few people. Kasia's here to do the NAI inventory update for 24 to 26. Jen and Brittany are going to present on the stewardship projects for HNC. The nature sanctuaries, Tony Rockingham, he's going to be presenting on that, give you a little update. Rob will be talking about bioacoustics monitoring. Bruce is here to talk about the Grimsby Wetlands, great year for you guys. And the MAPS banding station with Catherine Manschot, and then Falcon Watch. I think it's the 30-year anniversary this year, so looking forward to that presentation. So upcoming events, we have a tree tour on Wednesday, 5:30 to 7. That's at Gage Park with Jeff Dickey. And then Reptiles and Amphibians of Hamilton, that is also on Wednesday from 3 to 5. So if you're a keener, you got like a full afternoon of exciting nature activities, and they're all pretty cool. So that's at Sheila Dundooley with the Ontario Nature staff. That one is with registration. So if you want more information about any of these events, if I'm moving too fast, just check out our website, hamiltonnature.org. You'll get everything that you need, and the registration link is on our website as well. You might just have to navigate to the calendar.
The website said the Reptiles and Amphibians one was on the 29th when I last checked.
Okay, well, it may have been a typo. If that's the case, thank you for pointing that out. It's sorry? It is the 29th? Okay, I take it back. You don't have a full action-packed day of nature. But you can if you want to. You can just make your own adventure. Thanks for that. Okay, Alan Wormington Fall Bird Count. We are back into bird count season. So Sunday, November 2nd, that one kicks off, and that's the whole HSA area. So again, you can go on the website, learn more about that, or contact Bill Lamond, and he'll have more information as well. And then invasive shrub poles, the season is not over. Cartwright and Sheila Dunduli, we've got 2 of those coming up in November. Always great, I love it. I always say it's just like the best way to get, you know, all the feelings out. Is no better way than to really dig in and pull those things out, and you're doing something good for the planet at the same time. So win-win, right? And the WELO surveys are coming up too, and I believe they're like the second Saturday between November and April. So the first one's gonna be on November 8th, 17 areas, and I'm sure you all know more about that than I do, so I'm preaching to the choir here. And Chris Motherwell will have more information about that if you require it. And then November 8th, we've got Tom here, right? The rock star of the night for Rock for Nature. Very excited. This is our 3rd annual fundraiser for the support of our club. It's a really good way to show some of the talents and interests of people in our club and on our board from the music side of things too. Like, it's very segregated in Hamilton. You got like the music crew, you got the nature crew, but there's a lot of crossover too. So this is kind of a way to like bring those worlds together and just rock out for nature. So that's gonna be on November 8th at Corktown, and Buff Orpington is going to be playing. And if you were there last year at Action Packed, you would have seen Buff before we had our karaoke night, and they were awesome. So we're looking forward to having them again. So thanks, Tom, for doing that. And yeah, it's gonna be a good night. And yeah, if you need more information on that, again, everything's online, social media, website, or just talk to one of us. Bird Study Group meeting next Monday, the 27th, that's right here. Steve Burrows is going to talk about his path from birder and environmental journalist to author of the best-selling Birder Murder Mystery series. That's a mouthful. Birder Mystery series. Yeah, so some of his adventures, his research trips and things like that, so that'll be really neat. And then beyond that, our next monthly meeting, which is what this is tonight, but next month, we have a really interesting one, something that we haven't really done here. We talk a lot about being inclusive, but what are words without actions? So having May Matcham come to do a presentation on queer ecology, a celebration of human and non-human diversity, I think is something really welcome to this club that is going to bring a whole new group of people that can show their interest in our club and that we can be more inclusive too as well. So that's gonna be a good one. Don't wanna miss it. And now we have reached the AGM. I'm gonna take a breath, let that sink in for a minute. I have to read from a script now, so it's not gonna be as fun and exciting, but bear with me here as we go through the fun business. So in my capacity as the president of the Hamilton Naturalists Club, I, Rachel Jones, hereby call to order the 2024-25 fiscal year annual general meeting of the Hamilton Naturalists Club at 7:30 p.m. as scheduled on this day, Monday, October 20th, 2025 at First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. And I invite a motion to appoint a chairperson and a secretary for this meeting.
I move that Rachel Jones, club president, and Barb Dermott, the club secretary, be appointed as chairperson and secretary respectively for this annual general meeting.
Thanks, Jackson. Can somebody second this motion, please? Can I get a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, motion carries. All current members who disagree should indicate their dissent by raising your hand. And I'm going to say this so I don't have to keep repeating it throughout the night. When you raise your hand, if we ask if you disagree, like, I'm not going to count every hand of people that agree. It stands out more if you raise it if you disagree. So I'll go through that again, but if you disagree with that motion, please raise your hand. I see no hands, so motion carries. Thank you for that. So quorum is next. And the notice of the meeting was sent to all members in good standing by email and the Wood Duck magazine. Even though we had the strike, I know it just went out, so thanks to Catherine for that. Carolyn, sorry, oh my goodness. And by the requirement of the HNC bylaws, there must be at least 30 members present to have a quorum. So if you are a current member of the HNC, please raise your hand. We'll do a rough count. That looks like 30 at least, so I'm happy with that, thank you. So at the time of counting, we have at least 30 members present, so having fulfilled the quorum requirement, I declare that the annual general meeting is duly constituted. So the next item would be the minutes of the last AGM that was held on October 21st, 2024. So if there are no proposed corrections to the document, I invite a motion to accept the minutes of the last annual general meeting, which was held on Monday, October 21st, 2024.
Having read and confirmed that the document represents the proceedings of the last AGM, I move that we approve the minutes of the last AGM dated October 21st, 2024.
Thanks, Claire. Will someone second this motion? Okay, thank you. All right, all current members who disagree should indicate their dissent by raising their hand. Anyone disagree passing the motion minutes? Yes?
What was the name of the seconder?
Carolyn,
Thank you.
thank you. Are you just saying that because I screwed it up the last time? I'm just kidding. Okay, thanks for that. So if there is no dissent, motion carries. We accept the minutes from the last AGM. Thank you. So now I'm going to just do a review of the activities of the corporation in the past year. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently because we have Jen and Brittany and so many of our volunteers coming up to do presentations. I don't want to just go through all the things that they're going to tell you about later. So I just wanted to focus on some of the topics that we covered through our monthly meetings, through our bird study group meetings, and through our field events, just to give you a recap and a reminder of all the things that we were up to. So monthly meetings, we went through the New Ontario Reptile and Amphibian Atlas. We talked about cicadas. There was a presentation on natural stream channel design with rivers, native bees, cultivating a sense of wonder in nature, the Georgian Bay coastal marshes and biodiversity, the property near Spooky Hollow Nature Sanctuary, and then of course flower flies. So quite the range of topics. And then bird study group, same thing. We had chimney swifts, birds and beasts of Brazil, the HSA Big Ear, the convergent flyways and divergent perspectives, your garden through a bird's eye, a deep dive into the state of Canada's birds, prairie owls, great horned owl management, and celebrating 50 years of Hawk Cliff raptor banders. So again, quite the range. This, I'm not going to read it all to you, but this just goes to show you, again, the diverse range of activities and events that we've been offering. Lots of invasive species polls, tree planting, tree IDs, a lot of birding events, volunteer orientation night, which we did for the first time ever. So big thanks to Charlie Briggs for organizing that with our staff as well. The Trivia for Nature, which is always a big hit. Forest cleanups, stormwater birding. Sheldon always has great walks with his evening screech owl and woodcock outings as well. Barn swallow structures at Johnson 2 Park. And some fungus forays, sanctuary tours, lots of great stuff. And there's even more coming up, like I said. So keep an eye on our calendar, hamiltonnature.org, and or our social media, just to stay in touch with all of these new events that we've got coming up. So thanks for that. And this is, again, that's just information only. We don't need approval or voting on that. It's just, we will invite reactions and questions at the later stage in the AGM. But at this point, I want to call on our treasurer, Kevin Empey, to present the financial statements for the year ending April 30th, 2025. Thanks, Kevin.
Claire said I'm supposed to say I'm done. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah.
Now for the exciting part, numbers. So we're required to get an audit every year. We've had the same auditor for a number of years. They gave a clean audit report. What I'll do is a brief view of some of the key things in the numbers, because we made a significant change this year. Our assets are now almost $4.8 million. Our liabilities remain small, just a small amount of payables at a time. And so our equity is 4,766. So that's a significant increase from last year, and I'll explain that in the next couple of charts. We did a look at how we're accounting for our various sanctuaries this year. Historically, we've been valuing sanctuaries at $1. I looked at all of our peers, the Conservation Authority, the Royal Botanical Garden. They all record them all at cost. So, for example, we just were donated 904 Old Dundas Road this year, and if we did our normal accounting, we would record it as $1 on our statements. But the market value of what was donated to us is $1.5 million. So a significant difference on how we look, right? Worth $1 or worth 1.5 million. So with that and the purchase of Hayes land in the last couple of years, the board had a debate, and as I said, we looked at all of our partners, and so we passed a policy that we will now record all of our sanctuaries at the cost they were, whether they were donated or whether we purchased them. So the auditors have made an adjustment in our financial statement to increase our assets and our equity of that $3,172,000 to reflect that. So that'll be our policy from now on, anytime we get a piece of land. So that's really the significant change in our books and in our balance sheet. If you look at our income statement, once again, a healthy year, even though it looks lower than the year before. Our revenue is $601,000 as compared to 23-24, 933, 334. That was much bigger really because of all of the great generosity of people donating for the Hazeland purchase in the prior fiscal year, right around Christmas time 23. Our expenses are only down a little bit, 322 versus 385,000, and so we have an income of 268,093 this year. So we had the auditors talk about, we've had a number of years of surpluses, and how does Revenue Canada look at us? We're a charity, we're not supposed to be generating a surplus. But if you look at the details in our financial statements, the surplus is all in the funds. And so it's recognized that we're receiving money in wildlands to buy land, or we're receiving money in sanctuaries either for new projects or for invasives work or whatever. So it's recognized that we spend that money over time. So really the fund we, the board, pay the most attention to is the general fund, because the general fund is where we put memberships and donations that aren't restricted and cover the costs of meetings and the wood duck and things like that. And our general fund has a small surplus of $22,000. So on this chart, very briefly, I won't dive into the details of, as I said, the main decrease in revenue was that Hazeland was in the 2023-24 numbers. We had some significant estates that year. We have a new donation this year for, we're going to do work on the stream at Amiolo. Our expenses are not a big change, only down $53,000, and most of that is costs related to the Hazeland purchase. There's some project costs increase, as you'll see, and Rachel referred to it, lots more invasives work. And really nothing else significant, or we didn't have any financial problems. So I'll throw that open to the room, whether anyone has any questions on the financial statements, if you had a chance to look at them on our website, or I'll just table a motion to approve them. It's hard to see with the lights. No questions? Okay, so I'd like to table a motion to approve the 2024-25 financial statements. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Peter? Thank you. As Rachel did before, any opposed? Great, so carried. Thank you. So then do I move into the next one, Rachel, the auditor?
I also say too, just as required by regulations, I invite you, Kevin, as the treasurer, to nominate the auditor of the corporation for the fiscal year that will end on April 30th, 2025.
Thank you. Our auditor has changed names. Our firm, Gibb Wittes, merged into a bigger firm this year. So it's the same people, but they now will be known as Doan Grant Thornton LLP. So I'd like to move the reappointment of our auditors, Doan Grant Thornton LLP, for another fiscal year. Can I have a seconder? Back in the back of the room. Kate, thank you.
Do you have the last name, please? Smith. Okay,
Smith.
Sorry.
Okay, any opposed? Great, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Back to you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay. So the annual general meeting is an opportunity for the membership to bring forward questions that they may have about the activities and finances of the club in the past year, as presented today by myself and Kevin, respectively. So I now invite any member who may have questions to indicate by raising their hand for an opportunity to speak. And we have a couple mic runners here, so if you do have a question, let us know and we'll get you some amplification. No? Okay. There's time again after all the presentations tonight as well if you do have more questions. So with that, I will move on to the nomination committee report. So as is required by the HNC bylaws, as duly amended at this meeting, I now invite myself because past president is not here, to present the list of consenting nominees for election as directors of the corporation. So with no further nominations having been received by the secretary prior to October 1st, as required by club bylaws, I nominate the following persons who previously consented to act as directors of the corporation to hold office until the end of the corresponding proposed terms in accordance with the HNC bylaws as duly amended at this meeting or until their successors have been elected or appointed, subject to the provisions of the bylaws and the Business Corporations Act 1982, namely, all of these names. So myself, I will be moving from president into past president for 2 years. Jackson Hudecki will be moving from vice president to president. Charlie Briggs will be moving from volunteer director to vice president. Barb Dermott was formerly director at large. She is now going to be our secretary. Tony Rockingham is our sanctuary director. Peter Langbal was field events director. He's moving into director at large. Natalie Kemp is our new program director. Kate Smith is our new on the board. Hi, Kate. And she is our new volunteer director, taking over from Charlie. Celine Hanna, is Celine here? Hi, Celine. We haven't met yet. This is a great way. She's going to be our new field events director as well. And Sarah Richer, is she here, Sarah? Richer. She did one of our presentation. Was it on turtles? Or yeah, it was so cool last year. So she loved us so much that she just wanted to be on the board and just dive in on all the fun. So those terms are to be determined. We'll have more information. But if you go to our website, our board of directors page, you can learn a little bit about everybody. Our contact information is on there too. So if you've been emailing any of us at our roles now, like myself as president, I won't be monitoring that email anymore. I'll be moving the past president and so on. So if you want to get in touch with any of us, we may be changing our email addresses. So if you're not sure, again, just check our website and you'll see those updated names and email addresses. So will somebody second this motion to accept this portion of the board? Sheila Dunduli, I see. Okay, thank you so much, Sheila. And all current members who disagree indicate their dissent by raising their hand. Yeah, Bruce?
Treasurer?
Pardon me?
Treasurer?
Treasurer? Oh, that's coming. He's staying in his term. This is just for new positions at this point. I have a couple more pages to go through. We got a big, nice full board this year.
This is the musical chairs part.
I know, yeah, it is. But you're keeping me on my toes, Bruce. I like it. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, that is just for changing and new members as well. So if there's no dissent, I will consider the motion carried. Thank you so much. And now, I wish to confirm for the records as follows that the following directors are continuing in their board roles for the remainder of their respective tenures. So Nancy Hurst as Conservation and Education Director, she's got a year left. Claire Bennett as Membership Director has a couple years left as well. Carolyn Zanchetta, our Outreach Director, has a year, and Rob Porter as Bird Study Group Director also has a year. And I'm going to keep going through these and then we'll do the motion for that as well. So then the following directors have left their respective roles forthwith. So Brian McHattie was our previous program director. He had resigned this year. Bill Lamond was past president. His tenure is completed, as well as Gabriel Essu, our former secretary. His tenure has completed as well. And then the following directors are continuing in their roles as officers of the corporation, so our executive committee basically, until the end of the corresponding proposed terms or until their successors are elected or appointed. And on the lonely line there, we've got Kevin Empey, our treasurer, who has just signed on for another 3 years. So we thank him for that, because those numbers, boy, I can't do those myself. We need him. So I don't see it as a motion here for these parts. I think we only needed to move for the new ones, so that's all right. Okay, we're gonna do that. I'm gonna trust the script, and we're gonna do it that way. So having concluded the business, actually I'm not gonna adjourn quite yet. I wanna thank you from myself and to all of our outgoing directors for all their work. And I do wanna invite the board, current and past, to stand up, show yourselves, introduce yourselves, give them a round of hand. Thank you. Lots of hard work. Volunteer work, you know, we don't talk about it often, but you got to really have a lot of passion and love for what we do to do this kind of stuff day in and day out, and it shows in this club, so I really appreciate that. And I thank you too for, you know, it's a learning curve for me as your president over the last couple of years. It's been very rewarding. There's been a lot of challenges as well, but I've learned a lot about the club, I've learned a lot about myself, and I'm really happy and proud to be in this position and to have served for all of you, so I want to thank you for that. And you're in great hands now with Jackson coming on board, so lots of great, exciting things ahead, and I'm excited to be your past president, and I can still have a little bit of a back seat on all that, so thank you so much. Okay, so having concluded the business of the day, I invite a motion to adjourn this annual general meeting.
I move that the business part of this year's annual general meeting be adjourned.
Thanks, Jackson. Will somebody second this motion? Can I get your name, please? Yep.
Catherine Manschot.
Oh, hi, Catherine. Sorry, can't see you there. Catherine, for seconding. Thank you. Okay, all current members who disagree, indicate your dissent by raising your hand. If you want to stay here all night, who am I to stop you? Okay, no hands. So that motion carries as well. So thank you, everybody. Time of adjournment, 7:56 for your records, Barb. And with that, I am going to get out of your hair here, and I'm going to invite Jen and Brittany to come up and start our presentations of the evening. So thanks again, everybody, for your patience there and your voting for the AGM. Appreciate it. Lots more excitement to come. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Rachel, and hi, everybody. And I want all of us to thank Rachel again for all of the work. Being president is not easy. I've seen it just being at the board meetings. I'd rather be in my role. So let's give Rachel another round of applause. Okay, so now we're into the fun part. We're gonna see how well everybody can multitask by keeping track of the game and keeping track of what all of us are talking about, because there's gonna be a quiz. So everybody pay attention. So I'm really excited that this year we're trying something new. And so Brittany and I, in a few minutes, we'll be giving our brief update, and but then what's really exciting is we have other club members coming up to talk about their projects. So their projects that they got going, they brought forward to the club. It is gonna, all of them could talk for as long as the game is going on tonight. So we've asked everybody to do like just a short, like what do they do for the club? And I think you're really gonna enjoy it. And if you want to hear even more, because as I said, we can all talk until like tomorrow. But if you want to hear more, let me know. I've kind of put a bit of a plug, and I have a bit of an in with our program director. So let me know, and we can invite them back so you can hear even more in detail about what they do. But first, so I'm really excited that we are getting our first strategic plan underway. We like to make sure we're ready, so 106 years, and I think we're ready for our first strategic plan. So we've been fortunate to hire Civic Plan, which is a Hamilton consulting company, that this is what they do. And they are really excited to be working with us over the next year. I wanted to like kind of just put it in the back of your head for now, but because we're like, they want to hear from all of us about where we think the club should be going and what we should be doing and things like that. So you're gonna hear more about this, but it's really exciting. So I wanted to share that. And actually the first is Kasia. I changed things. So first, I want to invite Kasia up to talk about what's going on with the natural areas inventory. She came to speak to us last year, as things were really just getting underway. And so we've invited her back to give us an update about what's been happening in the last year and maybe what's going on. And then we'll come up and you get to hear from us and then everybody else. So Kasia. Oh, there she is. Okay, come on up. Thank you. And then just look forward and yeah.
Okay, one of those.
Yeah.
All right, hi everyone.
Thank you so much for having me back here again for your annual general meeting. My name is Kasia Zgurzynski, and I'm the Natural Areas Inventory Coordinator with Hamilton Conservation Authority. And we've been working on this natural areas inventory for Hamilton for the last year and a bit. So a lot of this might be, or some of this anyway, might be a review from what you've already heard from me, but there's lots of new stuff that's been coming up too. I just didn't want to leave anyone without some of the foundational background knowledge. So Nature Counts 3 is this new natural areas inventory that we started working on last year. And if you aren't aware, a natural areas inventory, or an NAI, involves surveying natural areas, and they can be as large as conservation areas and as small as urban woodlots. And when we go to survey these areas, we're really looking at identifying what kinds of habitat is there, what kinds of plants, what kinds of wildlife, anything that's alive really, and the kind of conditions that it's in. This information will help us make more informed decisions about conservation and restoration efforts, which I know you all recognize as super important. And there's been an NAI in Hamilton about every 10 years since 1993. So the field work for this NAI is scheduled to be complete next year in 2026, and we're expecting a final report in 2027 that we can all take a look at. So the main partners, it's a real collaborative effort, and the main partners are Hamilton Conservation Authority, the City of Hamilton, and the Hamilton Naturalists Club, with supporting partners including the Royal Botanical Gardens, McMaster University, Grand River Conservation Authority, Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, and Conservation Halton. And this NAI was really brought up as an action within the Biodiversity Action Plan. So I'm sure most of you are aware of that, but the Biodiversity Action Plan, the BAP, is a 5-year plan that is also a partner project, and it involves outlining actions that the partners can partake in and the community can partake in to help boost the biodiversity within Hamilton. So the NAI is one of those actions. So Hamilton is within the Carolinian Canada ecozone, and that means it's a habitat for many species at their most northern range, species that are found all the way down in the Carolinas, and as well as species at their most southern range. So because of this overlapping that we have here, the biodiversity tends to be exceptionally high. And it's important to protect this biodiversity hotspot from threats that, we're all connected to, like invasive species and encroachment, habitat loss, and climate change. And these threats are only, getting worse these days. So our goals for the NAI have included identifying significant natural areas for protection, defining threats to biodiversity and restoration opportunities throughout the city. And one thing that's different from previous NAIs is that we really have been engaging the public in biodiversity monitoring. And all of this information is helping to contribute to policy and mapping amendments for conservation purposes through the city as well. So where past NAIs have mainly gathered information with biologists going out into the field, this NAI has included much more public participation. So the data has been coming in through iNaturalist, which, if you're not aware, it's an app or a website. It's free to use, and it's simple. You can identify species and make observation and document them on there. And it's used by scientists to understand the distribution of the species that we see around us. So last year's field work, the target was urban woodlots. And these woodlots are, often bits left over of the habitats that used to just cover the landscape. And, over time there's just less and less of them. But they still contain a lot of interesting and sometimes rare species, though they're facing a lot of these threats. And they're important to document not only where these habitats are, if we haven't already, made note of them, but also what's still persisting in there. This year's field work has had more field coordinators and field technicians working on ecological land classification, the aquatic systems, which was identified as a data gap from previous NAIs, And also we have a project called Mapping Threats to Biodiversity, which is funded by DeFasco. And through that, we're looking at finding the invasive species, where they are in Hamilton and how they've been spreading. And through that funding as well, we've been hosting these invasive species workshops where we teach people how to identify them, how to document them, and also how to get them out of the ground. So that's all been part of those workshops. For the ecological land classification component, we finished work at 25 urban woodlots. And if you're not familiar with ecological land classification, it's pretty much you go into a space, you look at the plants, you look at the soil, and you kind of boil it down to what kind of habitat is this. And those different habitats, describe that system and the kinds of plants that are there. It's all based on guidelines that were pretty much written in 1998. So some of it, it could use an update, but that's the best tool that we've got. And 115 hectares of Conservation Authority properties were looked at over this last season. That was mainly the work of Sherry O'Connor and Spencer Steenberg. There's Sherry right there. Sherry has been our ELC coordinator. So that's been really excellent work, going over 150 hectares of Conservation Authority properties in GRCA, NPCA, and Conservation Halton. Now, HCA is not included in that list because HCA does their own ELC surveys, and will be all updated on all of the HCA properties by the time the NAI is ready. So we've been really focusing on where do the other conservation authorities want us to go in Hamilton. And then 36 hectares of private property has been covered, which has been really amazing. We've gotten permission from, I think so far, 18 landowners to go on their private property and be able to survey and collect some of this data. So that's been really helpful to fill in some of those data gaps that we were finding throughout the city. For the aquatic side of things, we've had the aquatic biology coordinator, Val. She's been helping out with that so much. And she has so far, with the help of other aquatic biology technicians and myself, identified, gone to 7 benthic sites and sampled there, and 6 fish sites. So that's through electrofishing. And she's set minnow traps at 2 sites. Through these surveys, she's found 31 families of benthic invertebrates. So basically like insects and worms and isopods that are, in the streams, if you're not familiar with the benthic invertebrates, and 14 different fish species. So that's her collecting samples, doing a little kick sweep in the stream. And these are the fish species that she's found. So, I won't list them all off, but 14 species for only 6 sites, I think, is a pretty high number. So some of the sites were kind of surprising. We wouldn't necessarily expect to see such diversity, but it's been really nice to find some of these species there. And then there's the iNaturalist numbers that have been coming in since the beginning of 2024. There's been, I think by now it's even closer to 88,000, but over 86,000 observations have been documented since we started the project. And that includes 6,196 species, and 3,692 of those species are research grade. So that's, over half, pretty significant. So research grade basically means that more than one person agrees on the identification of that species, and it's a little bit more verifiable. So scientists are more likely to use those research grade observations when it comes to different studies that they do, because they're a little more sure that it's correctly identified when more than one person agrees on it. Out of those, the insects and the plants have been the most biodiverse, with 1,632 species of insects, and these are just research grade numbers for the different groups of organisms. Yeah, so 1,632 insect species and 1,077 plant species, so that's pretty amazing. What I don't have on here is there's been 53 fish species that have been identified. So I thought even with that 53, we've been recording a lot of the species that we see as well on iNaturalist when we have permission from the landowner. So, 14 of those we found through our surveys alone too. So yeah, it's been a lot of data coming in, and it's really exciting to see. And yeah, we really welcome that public participation for people to get involved and start documenting these species. And you can download iNaturalist, and then it can help you to identify local species that you see. And you're welcome to join our project, which is the Hamilton Natural Areas Inventory on iNaturalist as well. So you can make an account on iNaturalist, and they ask that you only post your sort of personal observations. You don't want to be posting other pictures that you find or collect what you saw. So you can either leave it blank if you are unaware of what the organism is entirely, or you can be as vague as I saw a butterfly, or as specific as I saw a monarch butterfly and where you saw it. So if you're not geotagging your photos, then you can just make careful note of the location, when you saw it. That kind of information can really help when it comes to looking at things like phenology, so like blooming times of different plants, and when the frogs are calling and things like that. That can help us learn more about climate change, because we do want to sort of document some of the changes impacted by climate change in Hamilton through this NAI as well. And then, of course, evidence of what you saw. So whether it's a photo or a sound, you can record different sounds of frogs and birds and things like that too. There's other resources that you can use as well. So within the sort of iNaturalist family, there's also Seek. And Seek is a little bit more of a gamified version. It's more sort of kid-friendly. Online, you can access the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, GBIF, a lot faster to say. And that's a great resource if you want to see pretty much any species where it's located throughout the world according to their records. And they pool records from like iNaturalist and herbariums and all different kinds of sources. There's also an app called Ontario Wildflowers, which is really great. It doesn't need internet to access, so you can be on there in the field even if you don't have cell service. And that can help you narrow down what flower you're looking at. There's Go Botany, which I think is really great because it lets you sort of answer questions about what the species is and narrow it down. And then it also gives you definitions about words that might be kind of botanical terminology. And then things like Nature Watch, that program really focuses on tracking changes over time and includes things like Frog Watch and Ice Watch and Worm Watch and Plant Watch and stuff like that. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Merlin and eBird to document and observe and identify birds by song. And Bug Guide is a great one if you're interested in insects. Lots of keen entomologists on there identifying things, so that's really great too. And of course, there's lots of field guides for whatever it is that you're interested in. So thank you very much for your attention tonight. If you are interested in taking part in some of the events that we have, feel free to go to the website. There's lots of links there for our event page and for different kinds of information about the NAI. And you're welcome to contact me if you have any questions as well, or you can ask tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Thanks, Kasia. And thanks to all of you guys. If you guys are contributing to the iNaturalist sightings, thank you. If you have any questions, you can always reach her after. We're going to keep going and do questions at the end if we have time. But all of us can be reached outside of this. So now it's Brittany and I didn't introduce myself because I knew this slide was coming. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jen Baker. I'm the general manager with the Hamilton Naturalist Club. This is Brittany Killingbeck. She's our stewardship technician. So we're the staff for the club. So we're going to give just a bit of an overview of what we've been doing, some of the high level stuff. And again, you can ask us questions outside of this if there's something that you want to know. Our nature sanctuaries, this is the majority of what we do. We have 11 nature sanctuaries, over 550 acres that we're responsible of taking care of forever. And a lot of that is managing invasives. And what we wanted to point out, particularly this year, is the donation of our new Pine Hill Nature Sanctuary in the Dundas Valley. So on this map, it's kind of like just close to Amallo. And so it was a very generous 9-acre donation that Brittany will talk about in a minute, about what we've been doing. Why we have to protect land. The government doesn't care, the provincial government doesn't care about our species at risk. So we talked about this a bit before, but if you haven't been following like environmental defense and things like that, basically our species at risk aren't protected. That always used to be, if you had an endangered species, it was something that would help to protect an area, to protect those species. Yeah. And if you want more information about that, I'd actually suggest, here's a link to the Environmental Bill of Rights if you wanted to submit comments about how maybe that might be a bad idea, but also environmental defense. But this is why we need to protect and take care of our nature sanctuaries. On a brighter note, so we need your help. There's 2 of us, 11 properties. That math doesn't really add up. Even Kevin would agree, I think, with that. So we need help. We need some folks who want to go out and check boundaries and see what's happening on the properties that we might not have time to see. That kind of thing. We provide training. We show you where the boundaries are, what's our property, what's not our property. So we'll walk through everything. Don't need to be an expert in anything except, being comfortable being out at the properties. So we need help, and this is one of the things that we need help with. So just feel free to reach out if you want to know more. Okay, I'm going to pass it on to Brittany.
All right, I'm just going to give you a bit of a whirlwind tour of what we do. We do a lot of things. So in terms of nature sanctuary stewardship, as Jen mentioned, it's a lot of invasive species management. We do a lot of plants, so shrubs, the typical suspects, buckthorn, honeysuckle, multiflora, etc. Garlic mustard, bittersweet, dog strangling vine, Phragmites in the wet areas, and the list goes on because there's always something else. We've also been managing hemlock woolly adelgid, which I'll touch on in a minute, and then once we remove those things, we're trying to put nice things back in, so we do planting events. And I will note that all of this is heavily involving volunteers. You know who you are if you come at once or 100 times, thank you, because yes, there are 2 of us. So just some examples of this year and last year. You may have read in the Wood Duck the updates on these at Spooky and Short Hills Nature Sanctuary. Between last spring and this spring, we have treated 642 hemlocks against hemlock woolly adelgid, those little white creatures there. Unfortunately, Short Hills, we only were able to treat 90 trees just because it already has them established. So most of the trees didn't meet the health requirements to treat, but the rest and the majority of trees at Spooky Hollow have been treated preventatively. So that is good for 5 years, essentially. So we'll be back in 5 years. We also participated in the environmental DNA trap, the picture in the middle there again this year at Spooky Hollow. They didn't detect anything, or they haven't told us they have, so that's great. And we hope to see that beautiful canopy stay beautiful. At Pine Hill Nature Sanctuary, as Jen mentioned, it's new this year, but it has been stewarded for a long time before us. The previous landowners took good care of it, and they engaged with community groups like Hamilton Conservation Authority and Nature at McMaster. And this year we continued that work with them. So early in the spring we did a tree planting on, as you can see, a slightly steep slope. So thank you to everyone who crawled down that to put some trees in. And then later in the summer we also had them come back out. Their crew did fish monitoring. They found some typical suspects, and the stream's looking really good because they've been doing a lot of erosion control. So we also worked on more erosion control down there. We threw 200 Christmas trees down the slope and then put them in. So that was really good. And then at the Sheila Dunduli Nature Sanctuary, among other things, if you've been there recently, you may have noticed there's now a wetland. So you'll see in the November wood duck, there's an article on it as well, but briefly, it is a compensation wetland, and I will put an asterisk, we usually don't support those. This was like a low spot made by a development parking lot that had frag in it. We didn't feel too bad about that one. So instead, we get a really nice wetland. So it's got 4 ponds. It's doing really well in its first year. This was just installed last fall, and it's already thriving. There were tadpoles, there was birds, there was lots of other things going on. So we're excited to see how that goes. And we also did our own plantings as well, kind of around the edges to take advantage of that construction zone. On to monitoring efforts. So we continued some monitoring programs that we've done previously, so breeding birds in some of the nature sanctuaries. We've been doing forest health monitoring. We have some monitoring plots as well to see what comes up when the deer aren't there. And urban pollinator surveys. It was a low year for insects. I don't know if anyone else noticed that. And then 3 I'll touch on specifically. I did eastern flowering dogwood surveys. We now also started some snake monitoring, and then we did some urban invasive pest monitoring with the city. So just a quick overview there. At Spooky Hollow, we have a significant eastern flowering dogwood population. It's been surveyed every 3 to 5-ish years, depending, since 2009, a little bit before that too. So you can see the map that I've put up there is the 2011-2012. It has recorded about 1,400 trees there, and I spent 25-ish hours this spring looking for trees. Yeah, so you can see there's been a significant decrease. I found about 350 trees. And I'll say, if I go back to this one, I didn't color code this one. I didn't have time, but some of those trees would have been dead as well when they were found. So I don't know if that makes it better. But you can see the trees that are in good health are green. It goes all the way down to red is dead. So there has been a significant decrease in the population, but the ones that are doing well are doing well. And that's, for the most part, dogwood anthracnose, which has killed them off. And they also don't do well with drought, and there's been a few drought periods in that time, so it wasn't surprising. Yeah, snake monitoring. We joined the Ontario Nature Snake Monitoring Program this year. They're doing a long-term protocol across the province, and they put out a call and said, hey, does anyone have a property that they want to collect data on? So we said yes. So this is at Sheila Dunduli. You can see there it's just a set of 24 boards, essentially, in a transect. They're measured out, they're labeled, and they're waiting to get cozy. So we were a little late this year to getting them out, so we weren't sure how attractive they would be to snakes. They'll be more attractive next year once they've weathered. But essentially the protocol is that you go out once a week for a minimum of 8 weeks. You go out 2 hours after sunrise, which I did not do, or 2 hours before sunset, which is much more reasonable. So we actually did have snakes this year, which was nice. I think we had about 10 across the 8 surveys. So we had eastern garter snakes and DeKay's browns, which is not surprising given the site. So you flip up the board. The volunteers, we all just like wrangle around it and grab any snake we see and put them in a bucket, and then we process them. So yeah, it is fun when there's more than one. You're like, oh goodness. So you catch them, and then once you're done that, you process them, so you record the species. You also record the age, so neonate, juvenile, and adult. We had mostly juveniles because we started a bit late, so not surprising. But if you do have adults, you also record the sex, because you can tell the difference between them, and then you release them back. So we'll continue that next year, and beyond, preferably. If you do happen to be at the sanctuary and you do happen to find the boards, don't flip them, just leave them be. Just because the more disturbed they get, the less the snakes will use them, and we want them to go under there still. And yeah, they're really good at hiding, like that little guy in the hole. And then, yes, we hired a tech this year to do urban forest invasive pest monitoring. That was on behalf of the city of Hamilton. It was a really cool contract. So April in the middle there in the pink sweater, she did this contract for us. because this was during field season, we kind of connected with all of our partner organizations, so RBG, HCA, and Nature at McMaster. Everyone had field staff coming on at the same time, so we did a training day, which was awesome. They got to talk to all of us and also learn about what they were trying to look for. And then April spent basically 4 months in every city woodlot there is. If you need to know something about it, she knows. Yeah, she was looking for things like hemlock woolly adelgid, spotted lanternfly, oak wilt. She didn't find those, which is a good thing, but makes her day a little boring. And then she was looking for a couple others, including beech leaf disease, which is everywhere. So she would record what she saw and then report back on things. And that was really awesome because now we have a really good understanding about the forests themselves and also kind of the health of them. And it just helps the city kind of prioritize where they want to be working in the future. Then on to our urban stewardship, because Hamilton is a city. We maintained our 7 gardens and habitats that we have, and as well as Captain Cornelius Park, where we manage buckthorn and other things. Do you want to talk?
Well, we have to wrap up.
Okay, I'll go quick. The volunteers, yeah, really stepped up this year on that. The gardens are doing well. We did a tree planting last week, 2 weeks ago, at McQuestion. It's looking good there. And then we also had a native plant fair here a couple weeks ago, and that went really well. That Jen and I basically didn't do anything for it. We just showed up.
Thanks to Jean
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. But yeah, it was super busy, very well attended. And I'll hand it over to Jen for the update.
Okay, thanks, Brittany. And stay tuned. First Saturday in October will be our native plant fair ongoing. Biodiversity Action Plan, we have a BAP. We have a BAP coordinator. Tom's here. Rockstar Tom, same Tom. That was introduced earlier. So I'm just gonna keep it at that. If you have any questions about the Biodiversity Action Plan, which is going swimmingly, ask Tom. He'd love to answer your questions. Okay, so now I am going to move on to Tony, Tony Rockingham is our wonderful new sanctuary director, and he has a few updates that he's going to do, like kind of big picture about the sanctuaries. Okay.
And I advance the slides, those guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Just to do that one.
Right.
And then you won't need anything else.
Okay, thank you very much, Jen. And Brittany, thank you very much. You've got a lot of details and neat pictures. I don't have pictures. What I was going to try and speak to is the fact that there's lots of work to be done at the sanctuaries, but I think you got a feel for that already. And the work that's done at the sanctuaries, a lot of it is led by staff. Some of the work is done with contractors. A lot of the work is done with staff and volunteers. And we also have volunteer-led projects where they organize the whole project and bring in the volunteers necessary to get it done. And the reason we have to do a lot of work at the sanctuaries, as Brittany has said, as Jen has alluded to, there's a lot of pressures on sanctuaries. There's not only climate change that's taking place that's leading to invasives, invasive plants, invasive insects, and of course we have humans doing their thing. We've found evidence of bicycles on trails in our sanctuaries, which is something we certainly don't want to encourage. We found evidence of horses. We found litter. All of that has to be taken care of, and we try and do it in a proactive manner to make sure that we're protecting the flora and fauna. So that's the number one goal. Second goal is restoring ecosystems. As Brittany said, when we have an opportunity, we try and do the plantings that make sense for that particular ecosystem. What we've noticed over time, and I've read this in reviewing the sanctuary stewardship plans, there's much more focus on invasive species over the last 5 years than there was 15, 20 years ago. So yes, we still do restoration, but more and more of our efforts are going into dealing with protecting flora and fauna, getting rid of invasives. Another goal for the sanctuaries is providing the settings that our membership enjoys. So most of the parks in Hamilton, you can't go in and set up birding nests. That's frowned on. But that's being done at the sanctuaries, and that's a great opportunity to contribute knowledge in that and also to satisfy some of the interests that our membership have. I get a great kick out of the efforts to encourage enthusiasm in protecting nature. When Jen shows up at a site with 30 volunteers, all with a spade or a trowel in hand, and they're eager to get in there and do plantings, that's wonderful. It's doing good things for nature. It's also, I think, really helping people understand what needs to be done to protect our ecosystems. And the fifth goal I would articulate is we are doing work that's helping the wider ecological community. That work on HWA, Hemlock Woolly What's-It, is all I can call it. We don't quite know where that's going. There's been experience elsewhere in North America. But a lot of the exercises for trying to protect nature, it's evolving the best way to do it. And we're certainly willing to share that experience as we get it. So that's the 5 goals I would articulate for our sanctuaries, and I guess I'm putting this plug in early because I know, as Jen said, we're doing strategic planning. Surely that's going to be an important part of what our long-term strategic plan should look at. What do we want out of sanctuaries? What are we willing to do? So this slide, again, I compliment Brittany on her pictures. She's got much more interesting stuff than I do. Just speaking to the spraying and injections, again, I was part of that, looking at perhaps 15 or 20 volunteers that descended at Spooky to help the experts. They were labeling trees. We were holding drills, drilling in and putting poison bullets in the appropriate, or putting the right bullets in the appropriate trees. Another project that the club is very much involved in is the restoration of what was an agricultural field 15 years ago. 150 years ago, it was a savanna. We're trying to move it back to that savanna. That's happening at the Amalo Nature Sanctuary. Brittany had great shots of the wetland at Sheila Dunduli. I found that one a little bit surprising. Sheila Dunduli, most of the land is flat on the top, not in the valley, but on the top, they decided to build a wetland. It works. You saw the pictures of the marshes. How it works, I don't know, but that's not my area of expertise. Jen talked about the huge number of volunteers that help her when she organizes plantings. 30, 40 people showing up, lots of enthusiasm. That's great to see. The club spends a fair bit of time maintaining trails at a number of sanctuaries, especially boardwalks at the Cartwright Nature Sanctuary and at Spooky Hollow. And a really exciting project that Kevin referred to, we've got a donation where someone is willing to help the club look at how to restore a stream that was channelized some 40, 50 years ago. We're going to look at, is it possible to rewild that stream and rewild the floodplain in that area? So that's the tangible stuff. Lots of work going on at sanctuaries, and I think the club's doing a great job in protecting and restoring where opportunities exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony. And now I'm going to invite Rob Porter up. I think a lot of you probably know Rob. So he's our bird study group director and kind of quasi-IT guy on our board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good. There's only a few slides. All right, my name's Rob. Back in 2018, I found out about these devices that Cornell makes that are meant to be put out on a tree, and you can just record whatever is going on for days, even weeks. It would just keep recording and recording. And at first, when I was just working on this on my own, we didn't have things that were like Merlin is now. We actually had to go through and not necessarily listen to all of them, but we had to go through all the data. And I would go through it visually. If you ever used Merlin, you've probably seen the spectrograph. So for a good year and a bit, I was going through spectrographs hour by hour in these recordings. And I actually started the very first location of doing these recordings, and this started from a small little fund the club had for research. I basically dipped into that to get these devices. And we started it at McMaster Forest. Sorry for the offset thing there. Converted formats and it went off a bit. But McMaster Forest, we've had continuous recording since 2018, I believe, as in 24/7 recordings there ever since then. So it's our one truly longitudinal study site. And I'm just going to read off some other stats, because when I made these slides, I forgot that Doug, who is the person who's doing the vast majority of this work now, Doug Welch, he has taken on, since I started this, a lot of the hard work of going through, putting all these recordings through the machine learning systems so that we can identify everything that's in there and store it all. And we got a partner in a website called archive.org that's also known as the Internet Archive. And on there, we have a lot of data on there, I'm going to say. So for those who are familiar with like what a gigabyte is, you're probably aware of that. And a terabyte is 1,000 of those. And you know, when you buy a very big hard drive these days, you're getting terabytes usually. We have stored up until this point 27 terabytes of recordings. For those who know how big that is big, including 135,000 wave files. Each wave file is generally about 40 minutes. So that's maybe 170,000 hours in all the different locations we have recorded at. And it started on December 1st of 2018. And as of Doug writing me a message, the latest was in 2025, October 12th. 34 different devices we have used since that time, and of various Swifts and audio moths and things like that, and 134 different locations individually, but the McMaster one has been one of the most persistent. Now, one of the cool things we've been able to do with this data is do things like these charts that Doug has done every year. On the left here, you'll see McMaster Forest 2024, the whole year, and that's just a visualization of the vocalizations of American robins in that location, and the 2025 to present there. And you'll notice this little line at the bottom there in October. That's a phenomenon known as autumnal recrudescence, where the birds start singing again in the fall when it matches what the beginning of spring is like. So there it is, documented right there in visual form. And here's one of my favorites, though. Every year we do this, the American woodcock. You can see at nighttime where they vocalize for a good 30 minutes, and then they stop for a while, and then they start again throughout the night, which was pretty fun to see. And it's so well defined there. So Doug has been making these. And here's field sparrow as one more example of something that's really, McMaster Forest is very known for having a lot of field sparrows. So this is a neat one to see. So a quick little thing about just a pitch of what we're looking for help. Archive.org, we always need some project maintenance going on there. Database health, database visualization. So if you're a technical person, there's that kind of stuff. But if you're a non-technical person or medium technical person, there's deploying and maintaining devices, which we're a bit behind on. And this can vary for things like just swapping batteries, to taking an SD card out of there, putting a new one in different places in the HSA, and we're always open to suggestions for new places. But we really do need the volunteers, because Doug is doing most of the work, and I'm starting to try to catch up on some of it now, but a little behind. So you can email me at birdstudy@hamiltonnature.org if you're interested in helping out with this. So thank you.
Thanks, Rob. And I encourage anyone who might be interested, like you can see the data that we get from it, and because they've been at the nature sanctuaries as well. So, you know, lots of different ways to help out. So yeah, reach out to Rob. Okay, so now I'm inviting Catherine to come up and tell us. So this is one of the cool things about the club. There's lots. There's like 10,000, there's gigabytes of cool things about why the club is so awesome. Rob talked about this project, like, yeah, he's been on the board, but this is a project that he just had this idea and he wanted to do it. Well, now we're gonna hear about another project that somebody said, hey, I wanna do banding at the nature sanctuary. We were like, that's really cool. So, and then we're going to hear about another project as well. And that's just so great that the club has always been like kind of a house for people to try out new things. And the quality of these new things that we get is outstanding. So I'm gonna shut up and pass it on. But I love that about the club, and that's why we're doing this tonight. And then just there.
That just there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Catherine Manschot. I'm the bander in charge at the Sheila Dundooly Banding Station. As you can see, I've just got it in red here. The whole area is 54 acres, and it turns out we need 50 acres in order to run what's called a MAPS station, and that's what this banding station is. And MAPS, the font looks very different from what I said, but anyway, looks kind of funky. Monitoring avian productivity and survivorship. So that's kind of a mouthful, but really what it means is this banding station focuses on breeding birds through the breeding period. So we're not looking at migratory birds in spring and fall. We're looking at what birds are breeding at Sheila Dundooly, and what is the survivorship, what is the demographics of the adult breeding birds, how many of these birds are getting into their second year of life and becoming breeding adults, because the first year of life for a bird is where the highest mortality rate occurs. So we want to make sure that the demographics are good for the longevity of the species that come and breed there. So here's the habitat. We had to do it through the American classification system. That was fun. And it boiled down to two, which is the deciduous wet forest along the outskirts, and then on the inside is the deciduous thicket, which is basically your, what does it say? I can read it here. There we go.
Dogwood.
Dogwood, yeah, and unfortunately the common buckthorn. And we have identified 38 breeding species, passerine and non-passerine land bird species based on field observation and banding. We can't do one without the other, because sometimes we might get like a bird that has failed as a breeder somewhere else, comes through and then gets caught in our nets. So we can't say that's a breeding bird in our area. It has to also be supported by field observations. So that's just a list. I'm not going to read them all out to you, but it's a good list. It's a lot of variety. And we also experience transient species, and what that means are not birds that are breeding there, but they visit on their way to their breeding grounds up north, and then they might come back down and stop over at Sheila Dundooly while migrating, and they use it as a stopover to refuel or molt, which is a new thing that we're learning more, that a lot of birds on migration will be molting at the same time. So our station is one of 300 that are operating all over North America. I mean, you can imagine one little station that gets maybe 180 birds in the nets isn't enough to make a lot of decisions about how a species is doing. You need to see how they're faring across the latitude and all over North America. So the power of all of these stations together provides a very strong database to work upon, and all of this information is given to the Institute for Bird Populations, where Peter Pyle lives, and he's written the guides on how to identify age, sex, and all of these things in his 2 books. And a lot of journal papers come out of there. They work with landowners to help with decisions on development
So it's very useful, and there's been some very interesting findings through all of this information. So just to come back to Sheila Dunduli, I just want to give you a sense of what we're doing there specifically. So how do we capture the birds? What data specifically are we collecting and why? And what we have learned so far at our station. We've been operating for 3 years now. So how we capture the birds are in mist nets. You can see they are 12 meters long, and there's 4 panels, and in between those panels is the mesh, and a bird will fly into the mesh, it won't see it, and then they drop into the pocket, because it's a little bit longer than, the mesh is longer than the 2 trammels, so they kind of fly in and drop into a pocket, and then we regularly visit all of the nets. There's protocol for all of this, and extract all the birds. Each one goes into an individual little bag and is brought back to the banding station. This is the net locations. As you can imagine, because we're looking at breeding birds, we need to spread the nets out to maximize what we capture and learn. So they're about 100 meters apart, and each net run is 1 kilometer long. So thankfully we have some really good young volunteers that can do the 12K every time we go out there. So what data are we collecting? We band the bird with its own individual number, and then we age the bird. Now I just have an asterisk there because we cannot age a bird by its plumage beyond after 2nd year. So after that, they have plumage that's repeated annually, so you can't tell if it's a 4th year or 5th year because the plumage, all of the plumage is changing annually. But we can determine hatch year and the plumages that would occur in the hatch year and in the 2nd year, and we can sex the bird. For example, a black-capped chickadee, you can't tell in the field if it's male or female, but during the breeding season we can, because there's physiological differences that we can see on the birds. We document the status of all of the feather tracks, and this is again to learn more about their molt. Molt is one of the 3 most energy expensive things that birds do. One is breeding, the second is molting, and not in that order, and then the third is surviving migration, or our harsh winters if they're resident birds here. We measure the wing length because that gives us an understanding of morphology, and if it's the wing morphology is changing over time. There's some really interesting articles about that. We check the health, the fat, and the weight, and then we take photographs of each individual bird. We take a picture of it, its profile, its open wing, and of the tail, and then we release the bird. So why do we do this? This is a 2nd year male cedar waxwing looking straight at you. So it's always great when we see 2nd year breeders, because that's telling us they made it through their hardest year of life, right? Their 1st year. So we're monitoring the adult breeding birds, their demographics, the timing, and their health. The fledglings, when they leave the nest, we capture them. So we're looking at the number, the timing, and their health. Species extent of various molts. How much are they molting? All of their feathers, some, a few. Where are they? What do they look like? What's changing? And then we get recapture rates as well. So that's what we call site fidelity. So we get birds that we've banded in 2023, we recapture them in 2024. Am I going too long? Oh, okay. I timed myself at home, but apparently when I'm in front of people. Okay, then we take photographs of them. Here are our volunteers that come at 4:30 in the morning and stay for 6 hours. I'm very indebted to all of my volunteers. They're fantastic, and there's a lot of training going on too. I'll be really quick. Okay. And then articles to the wood duck. We offer visitor days every other year to Hamilton Naturalist Club members, and this is just some of the stuff we've learned about population trends. This year we've really seen a drop, and we don't know why. yet. We need more years of data, but the heat was definitely worse this year and a lot more ticks on the fledglings, which of course we removed all of them. And we're starting a owl project now too. So we're looking to capture northern saw-whet owls. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. And if you want to learn more, you're speaking at Bird Study Group?
Yes.
Okay.
In December.
There you go. December Bird Study Group. Isn't that awesome that's happening at our nature sanctuary? Like that's so cool. And really fascinating because I know I'm not supposed to admit this, but I'm not a birder. Sorry. So I have found it fascinating in a space that I spent a lot of time to learn what birds live there. Like they breed, they raise their families. I'm like, oh, I'm doing all of this work to help them. So now, last but definitely not least, we get, okay, now we get, another really incredible project from very dedicated volunteers who have restored this wetland. So you guys might have heard about the wetlands, Grimsby wetlands, and the work that Bruce and Lori Mackenzie have done. You might have gone on Bruce's walk recently. You might have seen it in person, but I thought we haven't had them here. We've seen maybe stuff in the wood dock and their own updates, but I wanted to invite them here so we can hear firsthand from one or both of them. I'm not one of them. Okay, from Bruce, firsthand about all of this incredible work that they've been doing at the Grimsby wetlands. So come on up, Bruce. You just hit that.
Shift?
No, just the.
Oh, that one.
That one, yeah. Okay, 5 minutes.
Yep.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Okay, so folks, come back at 9 o'clock and I'll give you the talk because I only have 5 minutes. So the Grimsby wetlands. Why am I here tonight? It's because of you and the Hamilton Naturalists Club. It provided expertise. A few people, Bob Curry, Barry Sherrier, Jim Stollard, to get together and to make a proposal to the region of Niagara and the Department of National Defense, the property owners, and this is going back to 2001, 2002, with a proposal to keep parts of a sewage lagoon property, sewage treatment lagoon property, from being annihilated to being left as is, as a constructed, what we call a constructed wetland. So the big pond at the top of the photograph is 9 acres. It belongs to the Department of National Defense. And they're very good at protecting that pond. And then this pond in the middle is a 6-acre lagoon that belongs to the region of Niagara. And they're very good at hiring consultants. And then after 5 years of negotiations, and that's a polite word for the discussions, we ended up with the region's 6-acre pond, that's the one in the middle. We ended up with the 9-acre pond belonging to the Department of National Defense at the top of the photograph, and 4 additional new ponds that we got that I don't have enough time to explain how we got them, but we did. They were created for us. And 2 of them are in the foreground of this photograph. The one on the bottom right is the Stollards Pond. And this property goes under change every year. It's amazing to me. And not just in a small scale. This is what we call Watcher's Pond. It used to be a 6-acre pond, clear of water from bank to bank. This is in 2023. Today, oh, that's about 2021. And that's last year, with very few cattails left in the pond. So the ponds and the property are undergoing changes, because most of this property has been shaped by the blade of a bulldozer, other than a small woodlot right in the middle of it. So nature is healing itself, nature is replacing itself. So 3 years ago, we had 6 acres of solid cattails, 3 meters high almost. And today we have a pond that looks like this with the cinnamon teal. Last year, I have a budget for renting rare wildlife. I put them in and then I write a press release. And this is the cinnamon teal. It stayed for 12 days. Somebody ate it. I rented it for 2 weeks. And then other species have moved in, and they're breeders. So we've got common moorhen, or gallinoo, breeding on the pond. Now, not all of the rarer birds that nest there breed every year. We have a lottery in the winter, and we say, okay, not this year, next year. We don't want to make it, how would you say, birders, we want to make the birders work for their check marks. And the red-winged blackbirds, and there's the young underneath the dad. So these things are all within sight of the trail that's going around or through the property for the public. When we look at how we do things there, we think, okay, we want an 8-year-old to say to mom or dad, what's that? And if we hear that question once in the day, then we're successful. And we have about the biggest pollinator garden in Grimsby. When the goldenrods finish, the New England asters start. And we have, our volunteers are not as structured like Jen's. It's, oh, you're here today, can you help me? But we've had a few groups that come out. And this summer we had a recognition of the gentleman that's in the foreground with the white shirt, Wayne Furtick. Was a counselor for the Grimsby, for the town of Grimsby in the early 2000s. Without Wayne, this Grimsby wetlands wouldn't exist. It would just be a flat field today. And Wayne was an acquaintance of mine at the time. And I contacted him. I said, Wayne, the people at the region of Niagara ignore me. And so we went through a long story, and he got people to answer the phone and respond to emails. I wasn't on email until this damn project came along. Changed my life. Sorry about that, Lori. But Lori might say, I know where he is. That's good. I am not a golf widow. He is either upstairs on the computer or in the mud. Oh, is that the last one? Yeah. Okay, well that's great. I've had the pleasure, Lori and I, of writing articles in the Wood Duck since the early 2000s, and now it looks like I don't have to do my articles, because in this last September Wood Duck, somebody totally unknown to me wrote his own little article on his experiences at the Grimsby wetlands. And then in October, the bird of the year, maybe, I don't know, but we've had nesting least bitterns at the Grimsby wetlands. You might go 20 years and not see a least bitterin. I only rented these for 1 year, so I don't know. I'm working on next year's species. But they have to be large enough to be visible to the public and exciting enough for bird watchers to tell their friends about. I hope you've read articles in the Wood Ducks about the Grimsby wetlands and our successes. And I'll just mention, we've received, the club and the project has received about 11 environmental awards, including a national award. In 2023, we received a Brownie Award from the Canadian Brownfield Network. So we're at the pinnacle. And the Hamilton Naturalists Club is the only volunteer group that had ever applied, let alone win a Brownie Award. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Bruce and Lori. She does just as much as he does, so thanks to both of them. And I wanted to thank all of the folks that we heard from tonight for bringing their passion to the club, like entrusting the club with like their project and their passion, and almost letting the club house it. So thanks to all of you for all the work that you do. And thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. I know it's a big night, so appreciate that you guys came here for part of the night. I know this was a whirlwind of talks, but I think it's a good way to show all the cool things that happen, or some of the cool things that happen through the club. And we had to do it, like we would have been here for 3 days if we let everybody do the full talk and heard from everybody. But if you want to hear more from this, like let us know. And yeah, that was everything that I wanted to say. And if you have any questions about, or you want to know more about anything that you heard tonight, just reach out. All of our contact info is everywhere. So just reach out and we can put you in contact with the right person. So thanks everybody and have a good night. Oh, sorry. One more thing. This is it, I swear. Gord and Angie McNulty thought that somebody should be the new proud owner of Monty Hummel's book, Protecting Canada's Endangered Species. So if anybody is interested in this very well cared for, very well loved book, then feel free, it is yours. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Switch this over.